A safari is an extraordinary journey into the wild, a journey into nature, and maybe if we dig a little deeper, even into the thoughts about your place in nature. It's an incredible, life-changing experience and allows you to fully immerse yourself in the natural world. One of the most popular parts of Africa, where people commonly go on a safari, is East Africa. And here, where I am, in Southern Africa, I'll go into each one in more detail. Now, you should know that across all of Africa, there are over 225 national parks and protected reserves. And that number is excluding any private reserves, of which there are many dotted throughout the continent. Every national park has its own unique beauty and charm. But in order to not keep you here for a month, I'm going to focus on the most popular reserves and national parks. Starting with East Africa, I'm going to be chatting through both Kenya and Tanzania with you. Kenya is known as the birthplace of safaris and has over 50 protected reserves and national parks combined. The most popular safari destination in Kenya is the Masai Mara, famed for being home to what is considered one of nature's greatest spectacles, the Great Wildebeest Migration, which can also be seen from the neighboring national park in Tanzania, the Serengeti. If you have limited time in Kenya for whatever reason, Amboseli National Park would be one of my recommendations in order to get a safari experience. It's only 240 kilometers away from Nairobi, making it a very accessible location and Kenya's second most popular park. Proclaimed a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 1991, Amboseli National Park is best known for its large tuskers, which are elephants with very large tusks, and its impressive views of Mount Kilimanjaro in the nearby neighboring country of Tanzania. Another popular reserve is Samburu National Park, located in northern Laikipia, a lesser visited area of the country. It is home to the Samburu people who still live in the area, and you might see them tending to their cattle whilst on your safari. There is a long-standing collaboration between the two parties, which aims to protect the wildlife as well as protect the culture of these people. It is a very unique ecosystem, and the habitat will differ completely compared to what you might see in the Masai Mara or Amboseli, for example, due to its semi-arid to arid environment. This makes it home to the rare 5 northern species specials, which include the Grevy's zebra, Somali ostrich, reticulated giraffe, gerenuk, and the Besa oryx.
There is something incredibly healing about being in nature. For me, I think it's feeling really small in large landscapes, the peacefulness of being outdoors and escaping the hustle and bustle of the city. But if we're being completely real, sometimes being in nature just isn't enough. And I guess now is a good time to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. It is online virtual therapy that makes getting support easier and more accessible. After trialing it myself, I can attest to the fact that it is super quick and easy to do. After filling out a short survey, you are then matched with a therapist, and you can then chat to your therapist via either video call, phone call, or even live chat sessions. What's also really great is that if you don't click with the first therapist that you're assigned to, you can switch to another one free of charge until you find the right fit. I think it's important to note that this isn't self-help or a crisis line. It's real professional therapy done online. So if you are interested, there is a special offer in the description below which you can check out. So thanks again to BetterHelp for helping us explore nature with a clear mind. And with that being said, let's dive back into the adventure.
Tanzania is home to a wide array of wildlife and landscapes that make it a very popular travel and safari destination. From the classic savanna settings and safari locations of the Serengeti and Ngorongoro crater, to being home to Africa's tallest mountain, to the idyllic white sand beaches of Zanzibar and surroundings, stretches of coastline, it really does have it all. Let's start with Tanzania's most well-known and popular park, the Serengeti. It has become so famous due to it being home of the bulk of the wildebeest migration. Every year, about 2 million wildebeest, which is a type of antelope, and hundreds and thousands of other plains game, namely the zebra, migrate from Tanzania's Serengeti to the Masai Mara in Kenya, following the rains in search of fresh food and water. The migration spans about 300 kilometers in distance and is a year-long event with no start or end point, as the wildebeest are on the move the whole time. A major highlight that many visitors will try and witness is the famed river crossings. This is where the wildebeest will need to make their way across two crocodile-infested rivers, the Grumeti and the Mara, the latter acting as a border between the Serengeti and the Masai Mara National Park. The best time of year to witness the crossing is from June to October, but due to the uncertainty of rainfall every year, dates and months can never be guaranteed. There are apps such as Herd Tracker that continually track the herds throughout the year and will give you up-to-date information as to where the bulk of the wildebeest currently are. Once these herds cross the river, they go back and forth many times in search of fresh grazing in the area. I can tell you from experience that the Great Migration is an amazing reason to come to East Africa, and was definitely a bucket list experience for me. The Ngorongoro crater is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world and a World Heritage Site. Due to the dense concentration of wildlife within the crater, it is one of the best places to see the Big Five. Mount Kilimanjaro, known as the Roof of Africa, is based near the town of Arusha. It is the world's highest freestanding mountain at 5,895 meters above sea level. Many companies operate hiking or what we call climbing expeditions to the top of Kilimanjaro, and there are various different routes that you can opt to do, which vary in length and difficulty. My advice would be to do your homework thoroughly on the different companies, and sometimes paying more on an expedition like this does ensure better, safer, and leave no trace environmentally friendly climbing practices. Also, make sure to be aware of fair pay practices to the heroes who are lugging your camping kit, food, and bags up to each camp as you gain elevation. You might not be aware of this, but Tanzania has a dreamy coastline with white sand beaches and warm tropical waters. Zanzibar, also known as the Spice Islands, was once a hub for the slave and spice trade, particularly within the Arab world. This is why you'll find that unlike the rest of Tanzania, Zanzibar is actually predominantly Islam. Zanzibar is an archipelago off of the mainland of Tanzania, with some of the more beautiful islands being Mafia Island, Nemba Island, and Pemba. Call me biased, but this is my favorite region as a whole, as it just offers something for every safari goer. Once again, I will just touch on the most popular national parks and reserves in the Southern African region. These countries include South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. Let's begin with South Africa, a country that has so much to offer and has been my home since I was born, way back in '92. With 11 official languages spoken, South Africa is a melting pot of cultures, heritage, religion, and races, giving it the name of the Rainbow Nation. From Johannesburg's cityscapes and trendy urban lifestyle to Cape Town's laid-back adventure capital, these two popular cities are juxtaposed with the ease of being able to escape to very accessible and affordable natural environments. From the coast to the bush, South Africa is home to some of the most affordable and accessible safari destinations, with some of the top Big Five game reserves on the continent. If you're planning on visiting South Africa, I would highly recommend combining 2 destinations in order to maximize your trip, such as the Kruger National Park, perhaps even followed by Victoria Falls, which can be accessed via either Zambia or Zimbabwe. South Africa is a great destination for self-driving holidays, which essentially means that you can drive a car on your own, whether it's hired or your own car, rather than having a tour guide take you around. Doing a road trip around the country in your own wheels is a fun way to see all of the different sites on your own time. If you have a lot of time, you could even combine a South Africa and Namibia road trip together. So, talking about self-driving, one of the most scenic self-drive routes in the country is known as the Garden Route. It makes its way from the coastal town of Mossel Bay, 2.5 hours out of Cape Town, to Port Elizabeth, making its way up the lush east coast of South Africa, or vice versa. I would highly recommend spending at least a week driving this route, making sure to stop in at places like the Wilderness, Knysna, Plettenberg Bay, and doing the Robberg hike when you're there, Titsikama, Storms River mouth, and Jeffreys Bay if you're into surfing. The Eastern Cape has also become a very popular safari destination, with some beautiful game reserves such as Addo Elephant Park, Shimwari, and Kwandwe, to name a few. Moving on to the last area I'd like to highlight in South Africa is, of course, its most iconic and popular safari destination, the Kruger National Park. It is the most biodiverse region in South Africa, hosting more than 500 bird species and over 150 mammals. It stretches over 2 million hectares and is 350 kilometers wide, bordering both Mozambique and Zimbabwe. To put its size into perspective, that's roughly the size of Israel and 1/3 the size of Ireland. It is important to note the difference between the Kruger National Park and the private reserves surrounding the park, which form a part of the Greater Kruger National Park. The area is made up of 20 additional private reserves, all run independently from the state-owned sand parks. All of these private reserves border the park and are fenceless, meaning that animals are free-flowing and can roam from the Kruger into these private reserves and vice versa. Although a few private concessions exist within the Kruger itself, the typical state-run sand parks accommodation is fairly basic and caters to those looking for more affordable camping and self-catering options, meaning that you can bring your own food and drinks to your lodging. The Kruger National Park is very accessible due to several airports that serve the towns on the outskirts of the park, as well as Kakuza Airport, situated within the park itself. There are also several private runways within the park if you are staying in private concessions, as well as within the surrounding reserves. Next, I want to talk about Namibia. With a population of 2.5 million and a country twice the size of Japan or Germany, Namibia is the second most sparsely populated country in the world. It is a land of stark contrasts and miles of remote, desolate areas, offering up a safari unlike any other due to its unique desert environment. One of the main attractions in Namibia is the Namib Desert, the world's oldest desert. And these red rolling dunes can be climbed and best enjoyed from the popular Namib Naukluft National Park, home of Sausisvlei. There is a lot of accommodation available here, both luxury lodges, self-catering chalets, and campsites in the area. Between the small town of Aus and the coastal town of Luderitz, there lies a ghost town called Kolmanskop. This is a fascinating place to visit and allows you to see what life was like during the diamond mining boom in the early 1900s. Further down south lies Africa's largest canyon, the Fish River Canyon. I would recommend viewing it at either sunset or sunrise, and definitely take a camera. Note that you cannot walk down into the canyon yourself, and there are special hiking excursions that need to be booked in advance with a qualified guide. Namibia's main safari destination is Etosha National Park, where you can marvel at the incredible wildlife and desert-adapted species that live in this harsh environment. Examples of these include the desert-adapted lion, elephant, and giraffe, who have all mastered being able to go for several days without access to water. Namibia is a great self-driving destination and offers some incredible accommodation options, from beautiful campsites to self-catering units to luxury lodges. There is something to suit all budgets in this country. If you're not driving from South Africa, you can fly into Namibia's capital city, Windhoek, and are able to rent a car from there or catch smaller charter flights to your next destination. Next up is Botswana. Botswana really is a magical safari destination and will keep avid safari lovers coming back over and over again. With the highest percentage of protected land in Africa, Botswana supports a large and flourishing ecosystem. A large portion of the country consists of the dry, arid Kalahari Desert, but due to the lush and tropical wetlands of the Okavango Delta, it offers a multitude of different experiences in different habitats. The Okavango Delta is Botswana's most popular safari destination. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the few inland deltas in the world that does not lead to the sea. The life-giving water source that fills up the narrow waterways and pans arrives from over 1,000 kilometers away, situated in the Angolan highlands. The journey takes about 6 months, making the dry months from May to August the best time to visit, as the rains have ceased in the area, but the floodwaters from Angola have finally reached the Delta. Another safari destination that is incredibly popular in Botswana is Chobe National Park, and is well known for its abundance of elephants, which love the lush riverine vegetation. The best place to fly into is either Gaborone, Botswana's capital, or Maun, the safari capital of Botswana, and is best to combine with other destinations such as Victoria Falls or South Africa. And finally, on to Zimbabwe. Despite some political and economic instability, Zimbabwe is full of warm people, incredible scenery, and beautiful national parks. It is a firm favorite safari destination. One of the main highlights of visiting Zimbabwe is to witness one of the world's 7 natural wonders, Victoria Falls. The touristy town of Victoria Falls is also known to be the adrenaline hub of Southern Africa and offers a range of activities such as white river rafting, bungee jumping, helicopter flights above the falls, as well as river cruises. Just a couple of hours away from Victoria Falls lies Zimbabwe's biggest national park, Hwange National Park, home to one of Africa's largest elephant populations. If you're slightly pressed for time, this could be a great place to visit as it is in close proximity to Victoria Falls International Airport. Next is the World Heritage Site of Mana Pools National Park, considered to be one of Africa's greatest wildlife regions. This place will truly leave you in awe of its beauty, with its riverine wilderness on the banks of the mighty Zambezi River. It is advised to not visit during the wet season, which is November to March, as the rains are in full force and the roads can become unmanageable. Most visitors will fly into Victoria Falls International Airport, or will drive across the border from the neighboring countries of Botswana or Namibia. If this is your first African border crossing, make sure to do your research beforehand of the documents that you might need. Lastly, have patience. You might need it.
There is nothing quite like the experience of going on a safari for the first time and discovering a whole new world that you never knew existed. I'm Nicole Eddy, and I have been lucky enough to have experienced the magic of the bush since childhood, and it just never gets old. So join me as we explore the best safari destinations in Southern and East Africa. I'll help guide you through choosing the right country to visit, accommodation, what to pack, and the best times of year. We'll also dive into concepts like the Great Migration, the Big Five, and what a typical day on safari looks like. I cannot wait to share with you my favorite places on Earth. So come and join me and let's get stuck into the ultimate safari guide.